What's going on, guys? Hunter here. Gonna start up something called the Tuesday Tip. Gonna bring you something that I think is important about gym, nutrition, training, etc. Every Tuesday, and figured I'd start off with a really good one, and that is the topic of reverse banding. What would you do if I told you that this, and this are all the same thing? Mind blowing, I know. But yeah, basically all three of those things, the three things being that peg-loaded prime piece, that Cybex leg curl, and then this Smith squat set up with a reverse band setup. They all provide accommodating resistance. What is accommodating resistance? Whenever we're training, whether it be a single joint movement or a multi-joint movement, we have a strength profile for that movement or that muscle if it's an isolation movement. If it's an isolation movement, typically you will always be strongest when the muscle's longest. So relatively easy concept to grasp and relatively easy concept to apply to your training, especially with cable exercises and whatnot. When it gets a little more tricky per se is when we get to multi-joint movements where there are different muscle groups involved, different leverages involved, especially as you're moving throughout the range of motion. And that's why I like to reverse band a lot of my bigger compound movements, pressing and squatting being the two main ones that I really enjoy using it on. And that is because we're able to really alter the resistance curve to really maximize the exercise for what I'm actually trying to train. What are we actually trying to train on the exercises that we were talking about? With the squats and stuff, I'm always trying to bias my quad whenever I'm training, whenever I'm squatting. So that's A, the reason you always see me using heel elevation, and B, the reason that I am such a fan of reverse banding. With that reverse banding, we're able to make that, perceived easy part in a squat that doesn't have it hard. Everyone knows, they make fun of the guy doing the quarter squats, like, okay, you can squat, 500 pounds for 10 like that, but if I made your ass go down to there, it ain't coming back up with that 500 pounds. It's kind of the same principle that we're trying to use with this, and that is the accommodating resistance. Those bands are taking off that tension to where when you get into that hole, it's a weight that you can actually work with, and as you get out of the hole, those bands start taking less and less off, and even though you're in a mechanically advantaged position, you're overloaded to the point where the motion is the same perceived difficulty throughout the whole range. So yeah, that's a really long way of saying we're able to really optimize the exercise to really stress the muscle throughout the whole range of motion. One of the most frequently asked questions is, A, how do I set them, and B, what do I need to do? So kind of wanted to make this video, A, why we use it, and I figured we kind of went over, the why behind it, and that is, to really match the resistance curve of the exercise up to the strength profile of the muscles being used. But let's get to the nuts and bolts of how to do it. So you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need bands. So for, hack squats and pressing, I like the orange Elite FTS bands. I use all Elite FTS bands. So you'll see what they look like, and you can compare thicknesses to other brands if you want, but I'm going to be speaking just on the Elite FTS colors. So with the reverse banded presses, we always like using one of the orange Elite FTS bands. It's like the inch thick guys. For the hack squats, we always use two of the orange guys. And then for the reverse band Smith squats we've been doing lately, we've been using two of the red minis. So like I said, you're gonna need daisy chain. This is like for rock climbing, get them on Amazon. Carabiners, make sure the carabiners are actually rated for weight. And then lastly, the bands, like I said. So what we're aiming to do is to have the band set to where they are completely slacked, or at least not taking any considerable amount of weight up off top. So like optimally, you'd want them slacked out like that, but that's okay. They're taut, but it's not taking any weight. What we don't want, and the biggest mistake that I see, and I think people gripe that, oh, you're just making it easier with the bands, and I can see why they say that, because there's so many jackasses running around on Instagram with it starting with them that stretched and then they're going like that. That's purely for an ego lift. What we're doing here is overloading, strategically overloading a certain part of the exercise. So keep in mind it does take some, you know, like trial and error as far as where we're going to set it with the daisy chain. But like I said, we want the first, you know, 25% of the motion to be largely unassisted. So, you know, slacked or close to slack at the start, and you really see no resistance being taken up until like halfway through the movement. By the time we get to the bottom of the movement, it's taking up a decent bit of load. And that's kind of like the biggest thing that I want to make this video about, is how much load are we aiming to take off in the bottom of the hole. And you know, anecdotally, I've arrived at, you know, it's somewhere around 10 to 15% of the total load we're wanting to take off. But, you know, more important than that number is, and you know, this is something that I got from Joe Bennett, hypertrophy coach. You know, the best way to tell about having your band tension set right is the rep speed of your final reps. You know, if you are on your failure rep, like the last rep you're able to cleanly complete without reaching, you know, mechanical failure, breaking down, or actually needing assistance, if it is, you know, the same amount of difficulty and like perceived like difficulty throughout the whole rep, like you're grinding the whole rep out at the same speed, you have the band set right. You know, if you're flying out of the hole and then you fucking hit a wall and you need a lot of help out, you might be using a little bit too much weight or using a little bit too much band tension. So just pay attention to the final rep speed, but keep in mind we're aiming to take off, you know, as a jumping off point, 10 to 15% of the total load. So, like I said, went over, you know, how we like to set it up, you know, how much tension we want on the bands. Lastly, I wanted to leave y'all with this. So, you know, like I said, a lot of people on the internet like to talk about how reverse banding is just, you know, to show off and make yourself seem stronger than you really are. And like I said, I can understand why people think that, because there are so many jackasses running around with it completely done incorrect. But I just wanted to show you all this. So this is the exact setup that we use for the Smith squats that we do. And well, typically I've been getting up to 5 1/4 on these lately, but you know, just so you can see just how much these bands are helping and making it easier. So it's taking approximately 50 pounds off in the hole. This is deeper than I squat, paralleled actually, so less than 50. So, you know, if you're working with 540 pounds at the top, which is what 6 plates is, minus the 45 because there's no bar. God forbid I include the bar weight. But anyway, so yeah, it's around about 50 pounds. So like I said, 10 to 15% is a great jumping off point. We're gonna head on over to the hack squat and I'll show you how I like to band the Arsenal hack. I feel like enough people are training on that specific hack these days that I'll show you how I like to band it, just because I feel like I really have that machine dialed at this point. I've been doing reverse band hack squats on that specific piece for like close to 5 years now. So let's head on over there. Alright guys, so like I said, just wanted to show you how to set up the Arsenal hack, because it's such a popular hack squat at this time. So like I said, orange Elite FTS guys. I'll take one off just so you can see. But so you're just gonna get that daisy chain looped up top, carabiner right there, and then you're actually just gonna go under the weight tree post right there. See, so it's doubled up like that, and then just throw that on the daisy chain too. And I am going to preface this setup in saying this is my setup for when I do hack squats. So this is taking off, you know, 10 to 15% of 11 or 12 plates. If you're not squatting that much, you need to adjust how much we're trying to take off. Remember, we're trying to take off 10 to 15%. So, you know, just so y'all can see. So we'll throw a plate and a quarter on there, and these are all my settings. Oops, Okay, now they're on my settings. So you can see the band back there, it's completely relaxed. And it's gonna be completely relaxed till we hit like halfway through the motion. And we're gonna get into that hole. And it is gonna be right there. You can see the bands are really taken up by this point. We're out of the hole. But let me show you this real quick, because this is something to keep in mind. So obviously you saw the band setup we have. Come in here and do it like this. So it's resting on the stops right now. We take the quarter off. It's still resting on the stops. What do you think, Gowie? You gonna come off now? Oh, look at that. We took another plate off. It's still resting on the stops. So, still handily resting on the stops with just the plate and the sled weight. So, you know, I'll argue that if you have 12 plates aside, that taking this amount off isn't aimed at making it easier necessarily. It's aimed at making the exercise more effective. So anyways, I'll leave y'all with that. See y'all next Tuesday. Let me know if you have any questions.